In a world full of food, insane merit-based income, and governments that don't kill you for disagreeing with them, Mumkey Jones, that's me, and my two best friends try to do the impossible. Create a guide to help you survive communism. Mumkey's Declassified Communism Survival Guide. Your results may vary. There are a lot of misconceptions in the public sphere about what communism really is. So when a communist dictator, leader, rises up, most people aren't going to know how to avoid getting murdered by their new government. But don't worry though, that's why I'm here, to teach you the tips and tricks that will help you survive communism. Chapter 1: Equality. As any true communist will tell you, the fundamental principle of communism is equality, where social classes don't exist and all people are equal. This is true, as all citizens living under communism will be equally dirt poor, and will get to spend an equal amount of time standing in bread lines. That brings us to communism tip number 1. Stop being hungry. Now's as good a time as any to prepare your body for malnutrition and starvation. I would recommend starting off with 3 slices of bread per day and working your way down from there. But as every 14-year-old girl who rejected me in middle school will tell you, living your day-to-day life famished is pretty easy. The hard part is not dying of boredom while standing in the bread line for 3 hours a day. That's why I recommend initiating small talk with your fellow comrades in order to make the wait time fly on by. Oh boy! I sure do love standing in line all day instead of working.
Me too! I'm not even hungry. We've been eating like kings.
This is communism, my friend. We all eat like kings. And in case you're skeptical about the connection between famine and communism, all you've got to do is ask anybody who lived in a grain-producing area of the Soviet Union in the year 1932. Oh wait, you can't, because they all died of famine. The communist government's forced collectivization of agriculture led to the deaths of 6 million people. That brings us to communism tip number 9. Acquire a taste for human flesh. There might not be any grain available for lowly peasants like you, but there sure will be a lot of dead bodies. Communism history lesson. Communism is based on the principles of Karl Marx and his book, The Communist Manifesto. The philosophies of Marxism were in the effort of accomplishing 2 main goals: the elimination of social classes, thus making all citizens financially equal, and the elimination of the government in order to prevent corruption. So naturally, when dictators establish communist governments in order to oppress and control their people, they seem to forget about that second part, which is where communism tip number 2 comes in. Don't think about it. If you think about communist governments for even 5 seconds, you'll realize they directly contradict everything that Marxism was all about, and that the principles and philosophies you idealize in your mind are all lies put in place so that a government can control you. So just don't think about it. It's easy. Put that extra brain power to work thinking about more important things, like obeying the government and having no aspirations.
But wait, if Marxism is all about everybody being equal, then how come all of the people are poor and the government is rich?
Stop thinking about it! As a woman, you get 3 years paid maternity leave. So what do you have to complain about?
You're right. Getting paid almost nothing rather than just nothing definitely makes up for living under a totalitarian, one-party government that literally murders detractors and protesters. Now somebody pass me my nanobite of bread. I'm hungry.
Chapter 2: How to avoid being murdered by your government. If you thought starvation was gonna be your main concern when it comes to not dying, then you've got another thing coming. A communist nation has a one-party political system, and if you oppose that system, then they're gonna kill you. And in case you're skeptical about the connection between being murdered and communism, all you've got to do is ask any of the 1.5 million people who opposed the communist revolution in the year 1918. Oh wait, you can't, because they were all murdered.
No, wait, please. I'm sorry I was skeptical about communism earlier. I just didn't like the idea of my country being taken over by a corrupt dictatorship. Please don't.
If you don't want to share Alexa's fate, then just follow communism tip number 3. Don't have opinions. In the wonderful world of communism where everybody is treated equally, your government will literally kill you for having the wrong opinion. Not only will communist governments kill you for speaking against them, but they'll make it like you never existed. Joseph Stalin would edit people out of pictures after they confessed to anti-Soviet activity. If you thought getting banned from a YouTube comment section was bad, this guy literally got banned from existence.
Wow, he banned people for disagreeing with him? Joseph Stalin would have been a great YouTuber.
He was also severely depressed and hated all of humanity. He would have fit in perfectly with the YouTube community. Chapter 3. Excuses, 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 and how to make them. The most important principle for modern-day communists isn't equality or independence from the government. It's excuses. If 90% of your day is spent standing in a bread line, the other 10% is spent making excuses about why communism isn't that bad. If somebody criticizes communism and points out the philosophical contradictions, the millions of lives lost due to its implementation, or the numerous examples of instantaneous corruption, all you have to do is copy and paste the same few excuses that communists have been using for decades. For example, true communism has never been tried. This is the best way to completely shut down discussion by disregarding any valid criticisms as fake communism. Listen, I get that 99.9% of communist governments lead to corruption, famine, concentration camps, and genocide. But the unachievable fantasy version of communism that I have in my mind has never been tried yet. Another great tool for your excuses arsenal is whataboutism. Whenever somebody criticizes communism, all you have to do is point the finger elsewhere and say, "But what about capitalism? What about the United States? What about, All you have to do is convince yourself that other systems having flaws automatically makes up for the flaws of your own, and you'll be able to argue your way around any communist critics. And even if these excuses don't work, you can always murder the guy and erase him from history. Well, comrades, by using these nifty hints and tricks, hopefully you'll be able to survive when communism comes knocking on your door to steal all of your valuables so that they can be distributed equally among your nation's government officials. I'll see you at the bread lines. Do a capitalism survival guide next. Please make a Mumkey's declassified capitalism survival guide. Talk about the flaws of capitalism next. You need to do capitalism next. Balance things out. Do capitalism. Jesus Christ, okay. You commies really do care about equal distribution, don't ya? In a world full of affordable healthcare, insane livable wages, and economies where 1% of citizens don't own 40% of the wealth, Mumkey Jones, that's me, and my two best friends try to do the impossible. Create a guide to help you survive capitalism. Mumkey's Declassified Capitalism Survival Guide. Your results may vary. Capitalism is the lie that rich people tell poor people to keep them docile. This lie rests on the foundation of the popular fallacy, anyone can be rich if they work hard enough. When they say anyone, what they really mean is the vast minority of people, as 65% of Americans born into poverty will die in poverty, and only 8% of them will end up making six figures. So chances are, if you're born into poverty, then no matter how hard you work, you're gonna die there. But don't worry though, that's why I'm here, to teach you the tips and tricks that will help you survive capitalism. Chapter 1. Gambling. If you're born into poverty, one of the only ways you can become rich is by gambling. You might think that the best way to gamble your way into a higher social class would be by winning the lottery. But as it turns out, you only have a 1 in 175 million chance of hitting it big. That's why I recommend gambling in a high-stakes game that has a slightly higher chance of success: going to college. Now, college is a big gamble. The average college graduate owes $37,000 in student loan debt. And there's no guarantee they'll find a job that reflects their level of education, or even a job at all. In fact, 51% of college graduates end up in a job that doesn't even require their college degree. Plus, it takes the average college graduate 21 years to pay off their student debt. If you graduate from college but can't find a job to help you pay off your tremendous debt, then there's one quick and easy way to get out of it: kill yourself. Those debt collectors can come knocking on your casket all they want, but why should you care? That's your family's problem now. And now you're probably thinking, wow, all of that debt sure does sound risky. Maybe I'm better off not going to college. Well, think again, retard! If you don't go to college, then you're pretty much fucked for life. The value of a high school diploma has been on the decline for the last 40 years, and the average high school graduate earns almost half as much as those with a college degree.
Wait, so if I don't go to college, then I'm fucked. And if I do go to college, then I'll have a massive financial burden, and there's a good chance I'll end up being fucked anyway?
That's right, Jumpkey.
Wow, that's, I want to fuck Jane Goodall, I guess.
Chapter 2: How to Stay Alive Without a Livable Wage. So yeah, if you're born into poverty, then chances are you're gonna stay there. Luckily, I've got a bunch of tips and tricks to make a livable budget out of an unlivable income. Let's do a little bit of mumkey math! Realistically, your dumbass won't be able to get a decent low-skilled job because they all require 10 years of experience. So you'll be stuck working for minimum wage. The legal minimum wage in the United States is $7.25 per hour in most areas. So let's take that $7.25 times 40 hours a week minus about 30% for taxes, multiplied by 4, and that leaves you with about $812 per month. If you're lucky, you'll find an apartment to rent for around $500 per month, depending on where you live. Then you've got to pay for your car loan, gasoline, insurance, utilities, student loan, and Monkey Jones's Patreon. And that'll leave you with about negative $180 left for food. Meanwhile, Richie Big Bucks will be raking in 7 figures a month while sitting on his ass just because he was born into a wealthy family. But remember, capitalism is all about hard work. And clearly, Richie Big Bucks is working harder than you since he has more money. So maybe next time you're starving to death after clocking out from an 8-hour shift at the factory, you should consider working harder. Now you're probably thinking, but Mumkey, I need food to live. How am I supposed to survive on a food budget of negative $180? Well, don't worry. I'm a master of eating for free. Just follow these tips and tricks and you'll be eating like a true capitalist. The dark secret that the restaurant industry doesn't want you to know is that they've got a lot of free shit in there. Just past the counter where you're supposed to order food, they've got all sorts of free condiments, seasonings, napkins, you name it. So to eat for free, you've just got to go to as many fast food restaurants as possible and take handfuls of the free shit. It's perfectly legal. However, you probably don't want anybody to notice what you're doing because that would be extremely embarrassing. So you should try to dress as inconspicuously as possible. Here's another tip. In case you're worried that you might not like something, feel free to ask the restaurant employees what they think about it. Excuse me, have you had the scorpion pepper?
No, I haven't, but supposedly that's the one that's the hottest out of.
Yeah. Is it hot?
Trying to see like what it has in it.
I just wondered, well, because I don't know if I can handle it. I was going to see if it was really that spicy. Just try a little bit? Okay.
I washed one of the containers.
Oh yeah, that's pretty spicy. That's pretty good. Thank you. Once you've collected enough free ingredients, head on back home, because it's time to get cooking. Chapter 3: Bitch and moan to make yourself feel better.
Wow, Mumkey, capitalism sure does sound unfair for those born into poverty. Can anything be done to fix it?
I'm glad you asked. And the answer is probably not. The rich are going to continue getting richer. The poor are going to continue to get poorer. And the capitalistic lie of the American dream will continue fooling the vast majority of the population until the end of time. But there are a few things you can do to make yourself feel better. For example, you can march on Wall Street. The best way to prove that you deserve to make more money is by sitting on the sidewalk doing absolutely nothing. Wow, you sure did show the rich elite. They definitely read your cute protest sign from all the way up in their private jets. Or you could support a presidential candidate that promises to help tackle wealth inequality. You'll just have to hope that the rich elite don't pay for his opponent to win. Oops. And finally, here's my favorite tip of all. A tip that will probably appear in all of my survival guides because it's just that good. Don't think about it. Sure, 1% of people owning 40% of a nation's wealth is absurd. And sure, many companies pay their employees an unlivable wage while the corporate fat cats rake in all of the money. But if you don't think about it, it won't bother you. Just keep living paycheck to paycheck, barely able to make ends meet while working your ass off at a job you hate, while continuously being told that you're only poor because you don't work hard enough. Keep doing all of that, but also distract yourself by spending your free time watching YouTube videos and Netflix all day. If you just keep yourself constantly hypnotized by easily consumable media, then you won't even notice when the 1% ends up with 50% of the wealth, and then 60%, and then 70%. But who fucking cares? Because hey, Season 2 of Stranger Things is up now! In a world full of water, insane social drinkers, and loved ones who haven't given up on you yet, Mumkey Jones, that's me, and my two best friends try to do the impossible. Create a guide to help you survive alcoholism. Mumkey's Declassified Alcoholism Survival Guide. Your results may vary. Alcoholism is the coping technique weak people use to run away from their problems. While many people talk about factors such as genetics and patterns in teenage binge drinking, most alcoholics are people who use alcohol as a crutch to avoid facing reality. It's a bit like video games or Netflix or YouTube videos, except this one has the added bonus of reducing your life expectancy by 12 years. Hell yeah! With alcohol, you can enjoy the opportunity to forget the things that bother you most from a few hours up to an entire night you won't even remember. It's a very popular method that 1 out of every 8 Americans takes part in so that they can block out their traumatic experiences.
Wait, so are you telling me that I can forget that Jane Goodall rejected me?
That's right, Jumpkey. You won't even remember who she was if you drink enough. But unfortunately, most people are under the impression that this drinking solution is really a drinking problem. But that's why I'm here, to teach you all the tips and tricks to help you survive alcoholism. Chapter 1: Hiding It. If you have a roommate or significant other, it can be hard on them to cope with your drinking problem. But it won't affect them if they don't ever realize you life hack your emotions with alcohol. Which brings us to alcoholism tip number 1. Drink in plain sight. Rather than suspiciously disappearing to drink from your hidden wine stash, just put your alcohol into containers with similarly colored drinks, like whiskey into a bottle of apple juice. Once you become a veteran drinker, you may find yourself smelling like a Russian in a rubbing alcohol factory while in public. While people look down on the smell of alcohol on a person, some foods can provide an even stronger smell that people will be too polite to mention. Even better than having to hide your alcoholism is being alone. If you have no loved ones like an expert alcoholic, then you'll have no problem enjoying your life without depression or pain. If your loved ones are giving you shit for simply making yourself feel better, then cut them out of your life. Why should you have people in your life who make you feel worse and get in the way of your happiness? Chapter 2: Drinking Cheap. Drinking at a bar can cost you an upwards of $8 per drink, and even more if you decide to spend money on an Uber to get home instead of manning up and driving. To make matters worse, most of the bars in my area don't even accept good boy points as currency. Luckily, every liquor store has a plethora of bargains to be taken advantage of, with brands such as Seagram's running for as little as $9 for a full bottle.
Wow! So I can get a few days worth of happiness for only $9!
Even better deals can be found if your store carries overproof alcohols such as Everclear. With an alcohol content of 95% per volume, you can be happy in less than 3 shots, giving you up to 6 days of constant happiness. Unfortunately, your body can become tolerant to alcohol and you'll end up needing more and more to kill off your depression. But even if you're down to only 2 days a bottle, it's still cheaper than phony antidepressants and therapy.
Alcoholic pro tip.
If you've run out of alcohol but are still sober enough to realize driving while drunk is risky, check the medicine cabinet. There's usually alcohol in there. Chapter 3: Surviving Hangovers. Like other necessities in life, you'll need a job so that you can afford to be an alcoholic. If you find yourself needing an excessive amount of alcohol to feel happy, you may need to spend your work life in agony like everyone else. Luckily, plenty of resources exist to make life more bearable while hungover. Over-the-counter medicines can provide tons of relief in the times you have to be unhappy. If you find yourself nauseated, you can chug Pepto-Bismol and fight a headache with aspirin. Your liver can handle it. Of course, the most effective way to avoid a hangover is to continue drinking. Luckily, vodka is on your side. A few shots of vodka in a flavored coffee will fool all of your coworkers into thinking you just have a normal caffeine addiction.
What if I told you you could avoid life in liquid form, and every feeling deep inside you could be made warm? I can give you the secret to an escape. You no longer have to feel this way anymore. I got elixirs that'll handle the fact that you miss her. It's a little quick fixer that'll darken the picture. You feel alone, but it doesn't have to be that way. I can give you a bottle for less than an hour's worth of pay. It's a small little price, just so you can feel okay. Just remember that you'll have to do this every day. Cause alcohol can turn fact into fiction, but I should probably mention just a little contradiction. While I can turn your pain into rapid fruition, serotonin inhibition comes with this condition. So while you are drunk, everything will be over. Just be sure to cut down on the time you spend sober, and let me be the first to applaud your decision to escape from your life and into my prison. Help me. Of years off of our lives. Join us in destroying relationships you thought would always survive. Join us in hurting everyone who has ever cared about you. Join us in making sure that everyone is better off without you. You gave her every part of you that you could ever acquiesce. your body couldn't find a way to process all the stress. You couldn't move or breathe, but we both know you could sure as hell swallow. So why wouldn't you take this bottle and avoid all the pain that would inevitably follow? But remember when you ask yourself how much of the problem did you really solve? That the truth is there is nothing within your life that I can absolve. And now thanks to you I'll always be standing above you, while you're wallowing on your knees asking, why do I still love you?
In a world full of infidels, insane capitalism, and women having independent thoughts, Mumkey Jones, that's me, and my two best friends try to do the impossible. Create a guide to help you survive Sharia law. Mumkey's Declassified Sharia Law Survival Guide. Your results may vary. In a world that is becoming more and more progressive, Sharia law is right around the corner. But Sharia law has a lot of complicated rules, and if you make one wrong move, you might end up getting your hands chopped off. Don't worry though, that's why I'm here, to teach you the do's and don'ts that will help you survive Sharia law. Chapter 1. Tips and tricks for being a woman living under Sharia law.
Sharia law is the most liberating experience a woman can have, especially when you accidentally show your ankles in public and they liberate your head from your body.
That's right, Alexa. As any modern-day feminist will tell you, there is nothing more liberating for a woman than to cover her head and face with a scarf. But it gets even better. Most likely, you'll be required to cover your entire body with a burqa.
It's a good thing I'm already covered from head to toe in black. I won't have to change my wardrobe at all.
But don't worry, women. In addition to being forced to wear a hijab, there are a lot of other rules in Sharia law that will help keep you liberated and empowered. For example, when it comes to inheritance, a woman only gets to inherit half of what a man does. And you thought the wage gap was bad at 75%. But that's not the only way a woman's value as a human being gets cut in half. In the court of law, a woman's testimony is only worth half that of a man's, which means if you get raped, you better hope he raped your sister as well, or else they're gonna take his word over yours every single time. Don't forget, it's not rape unless the men see it.
Judge Mumkey. Jumkey touched my electrical cord and wouldn't stop.
Jumkey, how do you plead?
Yo, dog, she the one that raped me. I didn't do shit.
This is highly illogical. I do not have hands with which to rape.
Alexa makes a good point, but then again, she is a woman. Alexa, I condemn you to death by stoning. That ought to teach you that you shouldn't rape. Here's an exclusive Mumkey's Declassified tip for you ladies. Don't complain. Under Sharia law, it is perfectly legal for a man to beat the shit out of his wife if she doesn't obey him.
Hey, bitch, make me a sandwich.
I cannot perform that task because I do not have hands.
Bitch, the fuck wrong with you?
Sharia law is such a positive force on my life. Thank you, Sharia law, for protecting women.
Another benefit of Sharia law is that we'll have the safest roads in the world since women won't be able to drive. But I can't say the same thing about the skies. Chapter 2. How to avoid becoming a slave, and what to expect when it inevitably happens. Women, just be happy that you aren't a slave, because they're the ones who Sharia law fucks with the most. Oh yeah, Sharia law allows for slaves. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. Under Sharia law, a man is allowed to have sex with his female slaves, even if they're children.
Sex with young children? Now David
If you're worried that you or a loved one might become a slave under Sharia law, then all you've got to do is convert to Islam. Under Sharia law, any person who is captured during jihad can be executed, enslaved, or ransomed off for money.
Wait, so I can kidnap any person who isn't a Muslim while claiming that it's jihad, and then I can legally rape them all I want since they're my slave?
Absolutely.
Oh boy! I sure do hope Jane Goodall isn't a Muslim.
What? Chapter 3. A Man's Guide to Not Getting Executed. Don't you worry, men. There are plenty of rules for you to follow, too. For example, the punishment for stealing is getting your hand chopped off. It's truly tragic. One second you're trying to steal some hot ankle porn, and the next you literally can't masturbate ever again. If a man is caught being gay, then he will either be imprisoned or killed. Which is ironic if you think about it. Since there is so much gay sex in prison, it sounds like it would be the ideal place for a gay guy. If the two possible punishments for a gay man are getting killed and being sent to prison, it sounds like he's gonna end up in heaven either way.
But Mumkey, I thought Islam was the religion of peace. Surely only a small percentage of Muslims believe in Sharia law. Hashtag not all Muslims.
You're right. It's not all Muslims, it's just most of them. According to the Pew Research Center, 60% of Muslims worldwide support some form of Sharia law.
But that's like 1 billion people!
It sure is, but thanks to this handy guide we've created, hopefully you'll be able to survive when Sharia law becomes the law of the land.